Hi, I'm Vanessa Goff-Yu,
And I'm Todd Miller.
and welcome to the Member Spotlight. So, Todd, how's things going?
Things are actually going pretty good. I had my fantasy football draft on Monday in the US. So
Have
we're
you
getting ready. Fall is coming. I can't believe how fast this year has gone. It's crazy for me. I don't know if it's crazy for you. That summer is basically over. We're getting into fall and we're looking at 2025 already.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I'm getting a lot of memes of Earth, Wind, and Fire September coming around on my socials. It has gone quite quickly, hasn't it?
It has. And just as an aside, I'm a big fan of that Earth, Wind, and Fire song. But it's generational for me, you know. The 21st night of September, do you remember? Love was changing the mind of pretenders.
You are the king of lyrics, Todd, I have to say within tag.
That's right. I'm like a little Wikipedia. You can just Slack me and I will come right back to you.
So yeah, we've got a conversation with Mcleod Sims, who's a technical director over at media.net today. What can you tell us about them, Todd?
Media.net. Media.net has joined the Certified Against Fraud program within the last month or two, I believe. And they're taking advantage of this new kind of third pathway that we've created for publishers. Not that they're a publisher, but they're an SSP. So what they are able to do on this third pathway benefits publishers so that they can join the program more easily and can rely on Media.net's filtration operations to perform those functions on their behalf. So our hope is that it will be bold for publishers. More SSPs will take this on, and we can get more publishers to join the program. There's a lot of publishers that are doing the right thing. We just want to make sure that they have a way of being able to demonstrate that they are doing all the right things and being a benefit to the industry.
And you mentioned about Be Bold for Publishers. What is that?
Be bold for publishers. It's kind of a theme that Tag has had over the course of the year. One of the things that we've wanted to do is to introduce things that are bold for publishers because publishers need someone to be bold for them. So we're doing the new CAF pathway, making it easier for publishers and for SSPs that work with publishers to make sure that publishers can join the program. We've created a new keyword exclusion list tool set that will hopefully benefit publishers so that they are not getting overly blocked by keyword exclusion lists. So that is some of the things that we've done over the course of the year. We're going to continue to do more. We have some interesting ideas and we're not ready to talk about yet, but definitely stay tuned on the Bold for Publishers end.
Awesome. Today, we have the Scotch drinking FIFA player who had a hand in engineering the iPhone, Mcleod Sims in the house.
That's a very generous interpretation.
Is it a generous interpretation?
Yeah, I mean, all those things are true, but it's very nice. It sounds very impressive all in a row like that.
Well, you did have a hand in developing the iPhone or making the iPhone, right?
Yes, I worked for a company that produced the semiconductor housing for the microcontroller that was put, I believe, in the iPhone 4 a million years ago, and we were on the fourth iPhone.
Amazing. And you're now over at media.net as their technical director, right?
Yes, that is my current role and company.
Why don't you give us a little background into media.net?
MediaNet is a very cool company. I call it like the stealth ad tech player because it is the footprint in the Americas and EU is pretty small, but it's a pretty giant company and has a pretty cool history. Our founder is a serial entrepreneur, and the way that he first got into the internet, as I believe, and this may be apocryphal, but I believe that he was the first owner of like the major DNS systems in India when the internet was first sort of spinning up. The DNS is the main name service. So like when you type in the old days of the internet, you had to buy a book that would have like these little numbers that you would type into the URL bar. Well, before it was the URL bar, and you would literally like type in which port you wanted to go to, and you would like find out what you wanted to do from there. That's just not a very good UI. And so eventually we changed it into, google.com, msn.com, all this stuff. And when you do that, the domain name service looks that up, translates it into that sort of search, and then allows you to get to the right server, which gets you the data, which gets you the lovely pages and ads that you browse through on your browser. So that's like sort of the basis of the company. And it's a really cool company. It's a large company. There's like 2,000 folks in India. And it's a really fun place to work, a lot of really good people. So And it has a very interesting background.
So, one of the reasons why we're having this conversation with Mcleod is because Media.net recently achieved the CAF seal, the Certified Against Fraud seal, through this third pathway with our Be Bold for Publishers initiative. So, Mcleod, are you able to give us a bit of an insight into the motivators to achieving that seal?
I think it really points to how Media.net and other SSPs and exchanges can still provide a lot of features and services in an industry where, things are changing a lot. The traditional SSP was thought of as a place to get, inventory. And a lot of what you would trade in back in the days is, oh, I have my tags on this page. Oh, I'm exclusive with X, Y, or Z publisher. Or, oh, I have priority in the ad stack, X, Y, and Z places. And as the availability of inventory has become commoditized through EBDA, through TAM, through pre-bid in general, the exclusivity of inventory is a feature that has long been in the past. So a lot of people tend to think of SSPs as vestigial sort of companies that don't provide services. And I think this CAF feature and being able to sort of add additional services and features for publishers help us as a company and us as an industry find new ways for SSPs to, provide services that help the publishers on one end, but also engender security and confidence in the inventory that we're putting out on the market for our DSP buyers. The reality is a lot of the buying done today is done on algorithms. Like there aren't a lot of people who are individually setting up campaigns to target individual domains, like it happened in 2013, 2014. And so being able to really programmatically vouch for the inventory that we're serving and our own SSP has become a really important thing for us to be able to do both for our publishers and our DSPs.
So, Todd, turning over to you, why is it so important for us to have this third pathway for the CAF program?
Yeah. And I think that Mcleod is taking advantage of it in exactly kind of the way that we are hoping. So publishers have to do a lot in order to get business. You have to be brand safe. You have to filter for fraud and all these other different things. It creates barriers to entry for medium and smaller sized publishers who are doing all of the right things to be able to demonstrate that they're doing the right thing. So one of the things that we've wanted to do in this Be Bold for Publishers initiative is to create a pathway within the Certified Against Fraud program for SSPs who are providing filtration to meet the requirements for publishers who are required to do filtration for invalid non-human traffic. So what I mean by that is that in previous versions of CAF, if you were a publisher, you either needed to work exclusively with an ad server that was accredited to perform this detection and removal of IBT and HT, or you needed to work directly with a vendor that was accredited to be able to do the exact same thing. Mm-hmm. What we've done is created a third pathway in CAF, where if you're a publisher and you are working exclusively with intermediary partners, such as Media.net, that are tagged Certified Against Fraud and hold that seal, then you can rely on their robust filtration to fulfill the filtration requirements on your behalf without having to have that direct relationship with, say, one of the vendors or an accredited ad server. So it makes it much easier for publishers to participate in the program, but it also creates a value proposition for SSPs to be able to come to publishers and say, hey, you don't have to worry about your Certified Against Fraud requirements because we are helping you to meet those on your behalf.
And Mcleod, do you think that this third pathway has sort of boost your relationship with your publisher partners as well now?
Yeah, I think Todd did a great job explaining why there has been a hesitancy on individual publishers to adopt certain tech standards that, we as a ad tech industry sort of think about as table stakes, right? And I think it is, very difficult for publishers whose job is to create content and to create a page that is, interesting and gets enough traffic and is, something that people want to go visit, to also host an entire, team or teams or multiple people to sort of look after not only the ad tech portion of the monetization, but also all of the various things that could go wrong. It is very nice to be the team that makes things go right and say, hey, I got this great article produced, or hey, like I got this campaign to run on our traffic. But it's very hard to be the team that said, hey, I prevented X, Y, or Z from happening when there's nothing really tangible coming out of it other than things didn't go wrong. And sort of having that as your output puts you in a difficult position when you try and say, when you're trying to justify your own existence internally, right? So I think being able to sort of provide that safety layer of, hey, don't worry, we can take care of this. Let you guys focus on creating the content. Let you guys focus on the things you need to focus on as a publisher is something that really benefits our publisher development team and also helps us on the demand side of saying, not only are we giving you great publishers, we're able to provide them to you with this security and confidence that what you're buying are real people looking at great content, servicing the open web.
Yeah, I think that that's a really strong point because for a lot of ad tech providers and for a lot of publishers, you just give them an ad tag and that's the service you provide. But if you can really build yourself as a valuable partner, makes it more difficult for that publisher to pull those tags down, move somewhere else. And then, to your point, gives you a real nice story to talk about on the demand side.
Yeah. And finding that synergy between like supply and demand and being able to craft that narrative all the way from the publisher to not only the DSP, but the advertiser is becoming more and more the job of the SSP. And so having more tools to sort of reinforce that messaging is really important.
I mean, I mentioned at the top that you've just recently, or Media.net just recently received your CAF seal. Why was it so important for you guys to now achieve the CAF seal, and whereas if it's not in the future or in the past?
Yeah, I think the timing has a lot to do with trends we've seen in the industry over the last, year and a half or so, where there has been more of a trend of trying to provide more confidence in the industry. I think there's been a lot of, uncertainty just due to the programmatic nature of how inventory is purchased. We've of course always had, a dedicated team looking for IVT, looking for bad actors, and making sure that our inventory is clean and healthy, and we're creating a good marketplace. But getting that extra seal of approval from a third party becomes really important when you're trying to traffic and trust. And I think trust is really the fulcrum on which, partnership and business is grown. And so being able to not only say, oh yeah, we have our own internal teams that, do X, Y, and Z, but being able to say, and we are accredited by this third party really engenders that confidence that to really help move our business to that next step forward and really ensure we're building and maintaining partnerships rather than spending a lot of time trying to, run backwards and say, oh yeah, we have this team, they do X, Y, and Z. Let's explain all the individual things they do. We can just use this as a shorthand, which proves that, we're not just saying things, we're actually doing the right things in the background to protect our marketplace and provide that security.
And I think that's a really wonderful notion when you're saying sort of like working together of building and maintaining that relationship with your clients and your team and everyone that you work with. Todd, why don't you just kind of elaborate a little bit about, in the sentiment of collaboration and team working, what we've been working on in the working groups for the anti-fraud program to kind of really nurture and harness that sentiment?
Yeah, absolutely. So the way that the working groups work is that that's the body that determines what goes into the requirements. Anybody that's a member of TAG can participate in those working groups. You can make a suggestion for a change, for an addition, or a clarification on something that will get debated and discussed within the working group. And if that achieves consensus, then that would get added to the requirements that folks would need to adhere to in order to be certified against fraud. So that's really the way that TAG has stood up its programs, and the way that we work is that we have these working groups that are representatives of the community from both the publisher side, the agency side, the buy side, the intermediary side, where we can get everybody's opinions on what is going on and make some really strong decisions about, okay, there is something that we can actually do that will benefit the industry. So let's come up with a draft of that. Let's present that to the working group, get their feedback, constantly iterate on that, and then hopefully be able to launch something that will actually move the needle to be able to help, Mcleod and the other companies to be able to say to the publishers, you know what, we're doing all these right things on your behalf. You don't need to do all these additional things, creates more powerful value proposition all across the entire industry. So we're, absolutely dedicated to that collaborative nature and in almost everything that we do at TAG.
Amazing. And with collaboration, I think sort of like the key element there is trust, right? That we have trust within our partnerships, within our working relationships to be able to build on those blocks. And Mcleod, do you think, getting certification from TAG, specifically the anti-fraud one now that you've got, all equals trust? And how important do you think it is to achieve sort of industry standard certification?
That's a great question, and I agree with it a lot, but I don't think it necessarily equals trust, but I think it's necessary to enable trust, right? And trust is this nebulous concept of agreement, and I think Todd does a great job of sort of outlining how you begin to build trust, which is defining what you're talking about. And I think there's a lot of ambiguity in the industry at large and in the world at large, because we don't necessarily have the same definitions about what words mean in different companies. And I'm sure you've experienced this, like what one company defines as IVT versus what one company defines as it could be very different. And so having this third party to say, hey, here's how we define it, here's what, are the limits and what we look for and how we make sure it doesn't get through, enables everyone to be speaking the same language, which then allows for that trust to be built, right? Like just having the certification doesn't equal trust, but without it, there's no way to even begin that conversation. So I think it's really important to have, and I think having those industry standards across any variety of subjects are enormously important.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And the thing about TAG is that we create a baseline for the entire industry that all these different covered parties and all these different constituents can participate in. But that gives all those different constituent parts the ability to tell a story about how they are going above and beyond, the baseline standard for additional protection and security. And I think that that's, a great story for companies to be telling on top of their strong work as TAG certified.
And staying on the topic of accreditation, Mcleod, in your personal experience, whether if it's with Media.net or any other of the ad tech businesses that you've been with, how have your clients viewed industry accreditation?
It's almost table stakes really to have a conversation with someone new, right? Like if you are talking with a new advertiser or a new publisher, right, and like they don't really know you from Adam, then how are you supposed to establish trust other than through an industry certification, right? Because I may not know, if I'm Mcleod's local news site.com, right? And I've never heard of media.net, and they just come talking to me and I'm like, well, I don't really know who these guys are. So they sound like they're making a lot of sense. Without that sort of stamp of approval from a third party, it's difficult to get past the initial conversation. So I definitely think it's important from a initial business perspective, but also one of continuing partnership. Like, hey, we've just got this new certification. Hey, we're gonna try and get this next one and this next one. It's almost like continuing education, right? Like you have to, like what you do today isn't enough to get you to the next level. So I think it's important from both a initial conversation perspective, but also one of continual growth.
Right. And hopefully it will accelerate that process because you can go ahead and present your certification and people will know, okay, I don't have to have all these conversations about how do you prevent IVT, how do you prevent NHT, how do you prevent malware, how do you promote brand safety and transparency? Because you've already answered a lot of those questions with your certification and with your tag ID.
Right. And then the conversation, when you're spending time more on optimizations and how you can grow the business together, you can, get a lot more done from a actual nuts and bolts perspective, rather than spending a lot of time making sure everything is okay before you can even begin to start the hard work of growing revenue for everyone.
Right, exactly. Let's not focus on dotting I's and crossing T's. Let's get right down to brass tacks and start, getting some ads out there and making money for the publishers and the intermediaries and driving traffic back to the advertisers because that's what everybody wants.
Yeah, and getting the performance metrics that everybody needs.
So almost the final question, Todd, over to you. What advice would you give to any potential member companies who are thinking about leveraging this third pathway we have for CAF?
Oh, goodness. If you are an intermediary and you are already certified against fraud, I think that you have a really nice story to tell, to McLeod's point about all the different things that you are doing to fulfill these requirements and to do the right thing on behalf of the publisher. So they don't actually have to do that. They can focus on creating the compelling content, generating the reasons for audiences to come and view the content and to see the ads, right? That's what we really want publishers to be able to focus on. So as long as the intermediaries are able to do that and the publishers are able to work exclusively with those intermediaries that are already taking care of all that stuff, then yeah, I think that you are in a great position to join the TAG Certified Against Fraud program. It's just a matter of reaching out to your account managers at your different intermediary integrations and seeing whether they hold the Certified Against Fraud seal. And if they do, you're in a good position to get it yourself.
And same over to you, Mcleod. What's your experience been like of certifying for the anti-fraud program through this third pathway?
I think it's I hate to be a broken record here, but it's just like a really good way for us to shortcut a lot of the conversations that we have with publishers, right? And it's also something that's being more and more looked at from an RFI standpoint from agencies and advertisers. Like a lot of the time, it'll be like, are you it'll just be a checkbox. Are you certified for what? Do you have a third-party certification against IVT? Yes. And without having it, there just is no next step, right? And I think from a publisher perspective, it's really helpful because there are a lot of things going on the publisher side around integrating privacy sandbox, like trying to get which flavor of TAM or pre-bid should I use? Like all these sort of things that are really difficult technical questions that need a lot of time and research. And if you can shortcut the conversation around, hey, like baseline stuff, like are you certified against ad fraud? Is it IVT free? Are you running a clean exchange? It just enables us to do what we do at a much faster rate and get better results.
So we're coming towards the end of our interview, unfortunately, even though we're having so much fun. We are going towards the TAG's 10 questions. So people who have been on the member spotlight or have seen it, this is essentially 10 rapid fire questions that's got absolutely nothing to do with digital advertising, and all for us to know a little bit more about Mcleod. So
I thought about watching the previous ones, but I skipped the questions. I didn't know if they were repeats or not. So
there's no repeats.
Okay, all right.
No repeats. So that wouldn't have helped you at all. Right, Mcleod, are you ready?
Yeah, let's go.
What's your favorite chip flavor?
Barbecue.
Favorite board game?
Twilight Imperium.
Wow.
4th edition.
Wow.
Okay, I've never heard of that. I'm going to Google that in a minute. Tune or playlist that you put when you're doing the house chores?
Honestly, Taylor Swift. My wife got me on it, and now I'm hooked. I can't stop. It's shaking it off, all that jazz.
Most overrated film or overhyped film?
Most overhyped film.
Of all time.
Of all time, I really don't like Citizen Kane. I think it's boring.
I've never heard of it, but there's another one I'll Google in a minute.
Rosebud? You're not familiar? Oh my gosh, yeah, it's all right. Maybe it's not overhyped then. Maybe it's underhyped.
Well, it probably hasn't just come across my community, so
yeah.
Hot dog. Is it mustard or ketchup?
Mustard, 100%.
Are you a lamb person or a sea person?
Land. I thought you said lamb, and I was like, that's an odd choice between lamb and sea. I don't know if that's like a seafood question or I don't know what's going on.
D, not B.
D. Land. Got it. Land, yes.
Would you rather have no internet or no phone?
No phone. Easy.
Be friends with Wolverine or Wonder Woman?
I guess Wonder Woman. Wolverine's scary. He might stab me.
True. Okay, app you can't delete.
This is embarrassing. I look at Reddit way too much on my phone. I deleted the app a couple times and I always end up downloading it again just because it's a bad habit.
Hey, the Reddit community is strong, regardless of which thread it is. Final question, best type of egg?
Over easy.
Very good.
I
And
like, or eggs in a basket, if that's also good.
I'll give you multiples just because I'm nice.
All right. That's very kind of you.
Right. Thank you so much, Mcleod. I'll see you soon.
All right. Thanks, Vanessa. Thanks, Todd.
Thank you.